Hi, welcome back. We all know that every gacha game is just a casino in disguise, and while you've got people on the internet arguing with each other about which gambling system is the worst, the CEOs of these companies are quite literally best friends, sending each other cakes and visiting each other's concerts. In every gacha game, you will get shafted and get unlucky, but in this video, I will be ranking the most popular gacha systems from worst to best based on which one of these gacha games gives you the most useful characters with the least amount of currency, and is there somehow a gacha game where you don't even have to gacha? Every game will be rated based on pure numbers. What's the chance for getting the highest rarity characters, including the rate ups? Is there a useful and reliable pity system based on the character rates? How much currency does the game give you? How many characters can you guarantee? And are there any free characters? And finally, if there's a weapon system, is it fair in comparison to the character gacha system? Every criteria will be given a rating out of 5, tallied up and then divided by 2 to give us a nice, neat out of 10 rating. And with that, we'll segue right into games that aren't even in the list technically because of how dog shit their gacha systems are. I won't even give them proper ratings. Dragon Ball Legends is perhaps the single biggest PvP gacha game of all time, and we all know how insanely greedy these games are, and DBL's gacha system is perhaps the worst, with a chance of 0.35% for Ultra units and 0.5% for Legend units. These are already some of the worst rates you'll ever see. And even though pities are also insanely high at 500 and 600, the one saving grace for this gacha system is that it has quite a few banner events, step-ups, and other bits and pieces that help you get more with less currency. Step-ups are common in Japanese games, but DBL might have some of the most powerful systems here. Still, doesn't make it any better to digest when you have to pull hundreds of times just for one unit. But when talking about bad gacha systems, you also have to mention Fate Grand Order, the most famous gacha game out of Japan, which also didn't have pity for the longest time, but a few years ago introduced a pity of 330, but technically 300 since you only need to do 30 multis, since each multi gives you 11 pulls for the cost of 10. Still doesn't make it better though, because in this game you can guarantee around 1.5 to 2, maybe sometimes 3 SSR servants in a full year. Not every 3 months, not every 6 months. Hey, at least these games don't even have weapons, I guess. And now we actually get into the top 10. We'll start with the most mid gacha system of all time, which isn't absolutely horrible and gives you just enough to leave you wanting so much more to spend, but not so little that you stop caring about the game. Of course, we're talking about the most infamous gacha game of all time, Genshin Impact. It has a 5-star character rate of 0.6%, which equates to a 3 out of 5 rating, but there's a 50-50 on every rate up character, so you only have a 0.3% chance of getting a rate up, so a 1.5 out of 5 rating, but every time you get a 5-star that isn't the rate up on rate up banners, your next 5-star is guaranteed to be a rate up, so let's meet in the halfway point. There's a 50-50, but you're gonna win half of them, and when you lose one, your next one is guaranteed. I'll give it a 2.25 out of 5 rating here. It has a 95-star pity with a soft pity that starts increasing the chance of the 5-star from around 74 pulls until it slowly reaches 100% at 90. But with the 50-50 system, the hard guarantee for any one character is 180 unless you lost a 50-50 before, which makes it 90. Even then, you will never be guaranteed, underline that word, guaranteed, more than one rate up 5-star in any less than 180 pulls. We've seen some low extremes with FGO and DBL, and we're gonna see some much better pity systems later on. This 180 guarantee, or 160 to 170 with soft pities, will get the mid score of 2.5 out of 5. This game doesn't really give much currency. During a few patches it looked like they were gonna pick things up a bit and start giving their players a bit more, but in the end it's still around 60 to 70% of what this game's sisters and competitors give their players. Every year has 8 patches of 42 days, and in the last 8 patches, Genshin Impact had an average of 80 pulls per patch. And don't forget that, assuming you have every 4-star C6 and no 5-star C6, 80 pulls a patch guarantees you 40 Masterless Star Glitter and 10 more from whenever you get a 5-star, meaning you get an extra 9 to 10 pulls every patch from the gacha rebate materials. That means you can guarantee a rate up 5-star once every 2 patches, or with soft pities you will get a bit more than that. There's also the commission thing to get constellations for older characters, and that's pretty cool, although you can only get 1 for each character and only 4 times a year. You won't be saving much, and usefulness depends on the character, especially because they're old. I'll give it a 0.5 bonus for that only. Otherwise, other games will get a 0.25 bonus for every free limited highest rarity character they gave in the last year. The weapon banner in this game is infamously bad. It even has slightly worse rates to get the weapon you want because there are 2 rate ups on each banner and you can still lose to standard weapons. The only saving grace of it is the pity is 80 instead of 90, but that doesn't make it much better. Still absolutely garbage. I'll give it a 2 out of 5. So Genshin Impact, the game with the number 10 spot on the list, will get a 5 out of 10. And its sister games Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero will be right after. The only thing really pulling these games down is the Genshin Gacha system itself. The only thing they improved upon is the weapon system and of course the insane generosity of both of these games. Honkai Star Rail will be in the number 9 spot with the same rate and pity ratings as Genshin Impact, but weapons are where this game starts to change because the rate is 0.8% instead of 0.6%. There's only ever one weapon on each banner and it's a 75-25. Odds are way in your favor to get the weapon rather than not in your favor, so it gets a 3 out of 5 instead of 2 out of 5. In the last 8 patches, there was an average of 100 pulls, 25% more than Genshin, and so it gets a 25% more than 2.5 or 3.125 out of 5. And with the Gacha rebate, 100 pulls gets you around 12 extra pulls, so 112 in total. We can boost that 3.125 to a flat 3.25 with that. And in the last 8 patches, there were free 5 stars in 3.6, 3.7, 4.0, 4.2, and 4.4. 5 whole free 5 stars in the last 8 patches. If we looked at just a few more patches back, we would have gotten even more, but we're only counting the last 8 patches to be fair to every game. Each free 5 star is a 0.25 bonus, so a 1.25 total bonus, or 4.5 out of 5. So, Honkai Star Rail's final score will be a 6 out of 10, only dragged down by the Genshin character system. Otherwise, I wish it could have been the more modern standards of a 0.8% character rate with 80 pity, and I do wish the same for Zenless Zone Zero. There is no difference between these two games other than ZZZ is even more generous, and W engines have a 1% chance instead of 0.8% for light cones, so it'll get the same scores for rates, pity, and a 3.25 out of 5 instead of 3 out of 5 for weapons. Then in the last 8 patches, Zenless Zone Zero had an average of 120 pulls, 20% more than Honkai Star Rail, so 3.75 out of 5. With the bonus of 3 5 stars and 2 free W engines in the last 8 patches, Zenless Zone Zero will get a big old 5 out of 5 in currency. We don't even need to count the extra stuff you get from the Gacha rebate to give this game a 5 out of 5. You'll be able to get around 14 to 15 more pulls from Gacha rebate as well. You're almost guaranteed a limited 6 star every single patch in this game. This game is insanely generous too, so in total, Zenless Zone Zero will get a score of 6.5 out of 10. Again, same drawbacks as Honkai Star Rail. I really wish these two games had a 0.8% chance with 85 star pity, rather than the Genshin 0.6% and 90. Wuthering Waves inches just a little further than these two games with its objectively more mathematically rewarding gacha system with a 0.8% chance for a 5-star character with an 80 pity and a 50-50 with a guarantee when you lose. So a 3 out of 5 rating for rarity, 3 out of 5 for pity. Please do not underestimate how much better it is just to have 10 less pity and 20 less hard guarantee. The 20 pulls you save on average per 5 star saves you a ton as the patches go on. As for currency, the average pull count over the last 8 patches in Wuthering Waves was 110 pulls per patch. With Gacha rebate, you're guaranteed 11 to 13 more pulls, so a total of around 123 pulls per patch. 123 is very close to almost guaranteeing you a limited 6-star every patch, so we'll give Wuthering Waves a rating of 4 out of 5 here. There was only one free 5-star, Rebecca, which is a bonus of 0.25, resulting in a total currency rating of 4.25 out of 5. The weapon banner is miles better than Hoyo games since it's always guaranteed. Even though the rate is only 0.8% and not 1% like ZZZ, you don't lose any 75-25s. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5 for the weapon banner, although it does have the bonus of giving you 7 free weapon pulls every patch, and some patches like anniversary patches giving you 17. In the last 8 patches, there was around 70 free weapon pulls, which is enough to hit soft pity and get a free weapon. That will give it a 0.25 bonus. Wuthering Waves also gives quite a few standard pulls every patch, and as we know, they also have standard weapons you can get, which range from 70 to 85% of the power of most signature weapons, which even though it can be very hit or miss, does fall under our useful criteria for what you get from the gacha, since you can pick and choose which characters to give a signature weapon to and which to give a standard, and it'll give it another 0.25 bonus, totaling in a 4 out of 5 on the weapon banner for Wuthering Waves. In the end, Wuthering Waves gets a score of 7.125 out of 10. Now, I don't need to explain to you why Arknights Endfield is the most hated gacha system in a very long time. That's kinda obvious why. Pity doesn't carry over and you can lose infinite 50-50s, and to some people that's a death sentence. But in the end, a lot of what people don't like about Endfield isn't that you can't get more characters, because the much lower hard pity guarantees you way more characters. What people don't like about Endfield is that you can't be a casual player who just logs off once a week and logs back off after doing 5 pulls. So a 6-star chance of 0.8% and a 50-50 without a guarantee is a 2 out out of 5 rating, since only 0.4% of the 6 stars you will get will be limited characters, although there's a 2 out of 7 chance to get a previous limited character from the last 2 rate up banners instead of a standard character, which is obviously extremely useful, especially if you skipped a banner to save for a banner right after. The chance to get a limited character is then 64% instead of 50%, or a 0.456% chance for a limited character, so a 2.25 out of 5 rating. Now Endfield has a separate pity and guarantee. Every 80 pulls guarantees you any 6 star, but doing 120 pulls on a limited banner without getting the limited character beforehand guarantees you the 6 star as well. The 80 pity does carry over between banners, so if you pull on one banner 60 times, you'll get a 6 star within 20 pulls on the banner after, but the 120 guarantee doesn't carry over, so you will still need to hit 120 on every banner to guarantee the 6 star. The strategy here is to of course only pull when you have or can get 120 pulls so that you don't lose any of them. While it is definitely not casual player friendly if you fail, the 120 guarantee is so much lower than the 140 soft guarantees to 180 hard guarantees in other games, and the single biggest reason I don't think needing to save is an issue is because in other games, most F2P players still save up to get a character they're looking for. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. At this point, it's genuinely a preference thing, where if you really can't save up, Endfield is just not the game for you, but mathematically, you will get more characters because of the much lower hard guarantee. And now when talking about currency in Arknights Endfield, I've been keeping F2P counts over the patches, not including expiring pulls or dossiers, and there's been around 130 pulls on average per patch, although that is heavily buffed by the launch, which has tons of permanent aura barrels, so we will have to see how much we get soon. It'll be a lot more weekly soon though, because I am expecting we get a weekly mode and a roguelike mode in 1.5 and 1.6, so we'll see what happens and revisit this after a while. Now there's this Endfield bookkeeping doc a lot of people like to point back to, but when people do, they usually leave out a few of the sources that you do get in-game, like aura geometries and a lot of the rebate, and they usually don't inform you of the expiring tickets. While you shouldn't include expiring tickets in overall counts, you should leave them as a footnote since every player is still going to use them and they do count towards the pity. I've also found that this bookkeeping doc also had bookkeeping for other big games, but they also frequently undercounted pull counts when compared to other sources for these other games. So when sources conflict, we can take the average of what they say, as I did for every other game, so there's around 110 non-expiring pulls on average per patch in Arknights Endfield. And when you include the expiring pulls, you should be able to get around 120 pulls every patch to guarantee a character. And while that does constitute a 5 out of 5 rating, I will not be giving Endfield a 5 out of 5 rating here, because I still do really think Endfield should change the expiring pulls and dossiers and make them permanent instead, so I'll only give it a 4 out of 5 rating for that. We did get 2 free 6 stars so far in Endfield, although they're standard and you do eventually get every single standard character, although standards in Endfield are extremely powerful, especially when you're using physical teams, so I'd say that's worth a 0.25 bonus for both the Selector and the free Ardelia. Now the weapon banner is also a huge debate. Now while the rate for the limited weapon is a 25.75, the overall weapon rate is a 4% for 6-star weapons, meaning the limited weapon has a 1% rate, just as much as Zenless Zone 0. It's not insanely not in your favor and you're gonna lose every time. It's a 1% rate. You're gonna get the limited weapon 1% of the time. You're guaranteed to get a weapon in 8 arsenal issues though, and since 99% of your weapon currency will come from character gacha, this translates to around 180 character pulls or 240 if you're extremely unlucky. So for every 2 or 3 characters you hit 120 pulls on, you will guarantee 1 or 2 of them a limited weapon, depending on how many 5 stars and standard 6 stars you get. The issue comes along when you get lucky and get characters earlier than 120, although there's not much of an issue there because every battle pass gives you free alternative signature weapons that range from 80% as powerful as the real Sig to sometimes even more powerful like Camille's weapon. Now if you do get lucky on character gacha, you won't have to worry since weapon banners last 3 character banners as well, so you've got some time to get a weapon before it goes away. In the end, this weapon banner system only has one real issue, and that is you can't get much arsenal tickets outside of gacha, meaning there will eventually be an F2P player who misses both a real signature and an alternative signature, so I'll only give it a 4 out of 5. Now there was a mode that gave us arsenal tickets in the first beta, and it's rumored to come out soon, so we'll see in update 1.5. In the end, Arknights Endfield gets a 7.25 out of 10, only having a small edge over Wuthering Waves, really weakened by the rate because 50/50s are infinite until the guarantee. And now I did want to talk about Silver Palace in this video, So, although the gacha system is still probably in the process of getting changed multiple times, what we have right now is a horrible mismatch of different gacha systems, and currently it's at a 25/75 for the rate up character, meaning a 0.2% rate for every limited unit. So unless something drastic changes, Silver Palace might get a horribly low rating when it comes out. Other than that, right before we enter the top 5, let's talk about a couple honorable mentions that a lot of people wanted me to include. Punishing Grey Raven is one of the most F2P-friendly gacha games of all time, or so I've heard, and its gacha system is equally as F2P-friendly. If I did give it a rating, I bet it would have been around 8 to 9 out of 10. Same thing goes for Goddess of Victory Nikke, which I've heard tons of F2P-friendly things about. If this gets enough attention from Nikke and PGR fans, hey, I'll try and talk about them in the F2P accessibility video, but without any mistakes and after actually playing them this time. And with that, it's time we enter the top 5 gacha systems of all time. And in the number 5 spot is going to be Neverness to Everness, taking the 3D gacha world by storm when it announced it won't have 50/50s. It has a 0.99% S-class rate, basically a 1% no 50/50, so a 5 out of 5 rating. It has 90 pity, a very low number compared to every other major 3D gacha game, and very easy to rely on when you get slightly unlucky without costing too much, while also having a soft pity at 70, so that also gets a 5 out of 5 rating. So far there's also been definitely enough pulls every patch to get around one S-class character, so that's another 5 out of 5 rating for currency, and in the end, weapons are also practically and functionally free, where you can get one limited weapon every single patch as well. So that's another 5 out of 5 rating, but even though it got a 10 out of 10, it's not the number 1 game because all the other games are also getting 10 out of 10s. The reason it's number 5 is because in Neverness to Everness, you will simply get a lot less useful characters than in the games higher up on the list. That is because the next 2 games don't do limited and standard banners the way you're familiar with, while also having super high rates for characters. Reverse 1999 will take the number 4 spot on the list. It has a 1.5% character rate, but it does have a 50/50 with a guarantee, meaning we'll do the averaging trick we did earlier again. The average between 1.5% and 0.75% is 1.125%, enough to get a 5 out of 5 rating here as well. It has a pity at 70 and a soft pity at 60, guaranteeing you the rate up character at around 120 to 140. Now this is much higher than NTE's 90, although as I said, Reverse 1999 doesn't do limited characters the way you're used to. Reverse 1999 only has 3 limited banners for celebratory events every single year, with every limited banner also rerunning with the previous limited characters that came in the same banner in the 50/50 lost pool, while every other unit that drops in non-celebration event banners that aren't limited enters the standard pool after 3 patches. So the 50/50 in this game isn't exactly a punishment like it is in Genshin Impact, where you get useless standard characters over and over again. Now a lot of people might still prefer Neverness to Everness's no 50/50 at all, while you only look to get the rate up character themselves, although in my opinion, I see getting more still useful characters in the same amount of pulls as a bigger win overall, so I value Reverse 1999 over NTE. That's why I am giving all these top 5 games a 10 out of 10 rating, so you can pick and choose which one of them is your favorite because they all have very strong pros and very strong cons. They're all technically equal on the list, I'm just ordering them in my way. In the year 2025, there was around 900 total pulls to claim in Reverse 1999, as well as a few free 6 stars, and this year it's even more generous. I'm just using 2025 because I could only find pull count data for 2025 for the next game. Either way, Reverse 1999 gets a 5 out of 5 rating here, including the very powerful gacha rebate. Reverse 1999 has no weapon gacha, its peak, it claims the number 4 spot on the list. The game in the number 3 spot only inched over Reverse 1999 slightly in my opinion because it's more generous with currency and has much more powerful gacha rebate. Of course, this is the gacha game, Arknights. Arknights has a 2% character rate with infinite 50/50, so a 1% rate up character rate or a 5 out of 5 rating. Although limited and standard banners in Arknights have slightly different rate up rates, standard banners have a 50% rate up for the current or new standard character. Losing a 50/50 gives you a pool of all the other 6 stars in the standard pool. Limited banners are slightly different. There are 4 of them every year with 2 rate up units in each banner, one being limited and one being standard, with a 35% chance for each, leaving a 30% chance to lose the 70/30 and get a character from the lost pool, including the current standard pool and other limited operators from the same limited banner last year. Now there is a disgustingly high hard pity of 300 for every limited banner, although that's for guaranteeing a limited on-banner 6-star, and there's a soft pity at 50 that increases the rate for a 6-star by 2% every pull above 50, with an average to get a 6-star if push comes to shove at 65 pulls. The 2% rate is insanely powerful, and it's what hard carries the system, followed by the extremely low and fast scaling soft pity. This is what made my decision to put Arknights above Reverse 1999 so hard, but in the end, as I've said before, you do get more characters in Arknights. Combined with all the gacha rebate, you could get many different 6-stars in one summoning session, so I'll also give it a 5 out of 5. Especially because of the currency, when in the year 2025 there was around 1,000 plus to collect, meaning you could guarantee most of the new limited 6-stars if you get insanely unlucky, which in Arknights takes kind of a lot of effort. With a few free 6-stars as well, Arknights easily gets a 5 out of 5 in currency, and without weapons, we'll move on to the number 2 spot on the list, which is the Battle Cats. Now, Battle Cats' gacha system on the surface looks horrible because you get much less currency than other games, even though the anniversaries in this game are insanely generous. The rate for legendary units is 0.3%, and on top of that, there is no pity, although it has one huge saving grace, and that is the fact that you can just track your pulls in the system. Do a temple on every banner and you can see into the future of what you will get, because this game uses a seed system for every banner rather than real-time RNG. With this system, you will never ever waste pulls and can get yourself everything you want by simply looking into the future, pun intended, earning it the number 2 spot. And the number 1 spot on the list is reserved for a game where if you grind enough, you can probably get every single character because they're all purchasable, especially if you have the battle pass, which makes your life a whole lot easier. Trust me, just get the battle pass. It's worth it for the time you would spend afterwards. This is Limbus Company with the number 1 spot on the list, where you can just shard all the characters you want. Basically, you want to get most of your characters with shards while saving your lunacy, the gacha material, for either when you're desperate, I guess, or on a limited event like HYPERGRYPH or Arknights collabs. Although the gacha system itself isn't the best when you do spend your lunacy. Overall though, this game still gives you the most amount of characters, giving it the number 1 spot. And as I did say earlier, I gave all these top 5 games the number 1 spot because I believe they can all have the moniker of best gacha system depending on how you look at them, as they can all give you tons of characters for very little effort compared to every other gacha game below them. You might enjoy NTE's no 50/50, Arknights' 2% rate, the middle road between these two, which is Reverse 1999, or you might prefer skipping gacha altogether with Battle Cats and Limbus Company. So that would be it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this in the future, and join the Express Ryan Discord server for a fun and lovely community to hang out with. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.